He laughed when he said it. My stepfather leaned closer, his breath reeking of cheap vodka and stale cigarettes, and whispered through yellowed teeth, "Nobody will help you now." The room blurred behind my tears. 4 of his drinking buddies. Basement door locked from the inside. My phone somewhere upstairs. I'd run before I could grab it. That's when the door behind him opened, and every man in the room went silent. The single bare bulb flickering overhead cast shadows that suddenly felt different. Colder. The drunken laughter died like someone had cut its throat. Will Wester's face went from flushed red to fish-belly white in the span of a heartbeat, because the man who walked in wasn't supposed to exist. Pause for a second. That feeling you have right now, that mix of fear and hope, wondering if she's finally going to be okay, that's exactly where I need you. Because this story has layers you can't even see yet. A debt 15 years old, a dying woman's last plan, a ring that connects everything, and I promise you, the end will blow your mind. But I need you to subscribe before we continue, because stories like this, where the powerless aren't actually powerless, where help was there all along in ways you'd never expect, these are the stories I tell. And if this is hitting you the way I think it is, you need to be here for what comes next. Subscribe now. Let's get to how it all started. I'd stopped screaming 20 minutes ago, stopped fighting 15 minutes before that. When you're 19, dropped out of college, living in your stepfather's house, because your mother died 6 months ago, and her medical bills consumed everything, the math seems simple. You have nowhere else to go. Will had been drinking since noon, lost his job over the phone. His friends arrived with more bottles. I locked my bedroom door at sunset. At 8:15, I heard them on the stairs. Grabbed my phone from the nightstand, fingers shaking, and texted Jessica, "Can you call me tomorrow? Want to talk." Not our usual phrasing. Want instead of would like. The awkward signal my mother made me memorize before she died. I'd never used it before. Then Will's boot hit my door. The lock splintered. My phone flew from my hand, skidding under the bed as he grabbed my hair. He dragged me toward the stairs. I couldn't reach it. Couldn't do anything but stumble and cry as his friends watched from below. The basement swallowed me. They formed a circle. Will paced, listing my failures, tuition wasted, attitude problems, looking at him with my dead mother's eyes. Each word carefully chosen, breaking me down, erasing my humanity, justifying whatever came next. People behave worse in groups. I'd learned that in Introduction to Psychology before I had to drop out. How responsibility diffuses. How everyone watching means nobody intervenes. Abstract theory became concrete reality in that basement. "Nobody will help you now," Will said. I believed him. Until the door opened. The man in the doorway wore a black suit that probably cost more than Will's car. Dark hair swept back, sharp jawline, eyes like winter itself. Damian Belov didn't look at me. "Wester?" Will stumbled backward. "Mr. Belov, we were just what?" 2 men in similar suits flanked the doorway, not blocking it, just making it clear nobody was leaving. "Family business," Will managed, trying to sound authoritative. "Private conversation with my stepdaughter." "Family business." Damian stepped inside, surveying the locked door, the circle of men, me against the wall. "I see." I pressed against the concrete, trying to understand how this stranger even knew where we lived. "You owe me money, Wester." Will's face went gray. "The payment's coming. Next week. You need many things. Employment, sobriety, integrity." Damian circled him slowly. "None of which you currently possess. Look, I can explain. Men like you always can." Now Damian's eyes found mine, and I saw recognition there that made no sense. The man in the doorway wore a black suit that probably cost more than Will's car. Dark hair swept back, sharp jawline, eyes like winter itself. Damian Belov didn't look at me. "Wester?" Will stumbled backward. "Mr. Belov, we were just what?" 2 men in similar suits flanked the doorway, not blocking it, just making it clear nobody was leaving. "Family business," Will managed, trying to sound authoritative. "Private conversation with my stepdaughter." "Family business." Damian stepped inside, surveying the locked door, the circle of men, me against the wall. "I see." I pressed against the concrete, trying to understand how this stranger even knew where we lived. "You owe me money, Wester." Will's face went gray. "The payment's coming. Next week. You need many things. Employment, sobriety, integrity. Damian circled him slowly. None of which you currently possess. Look, I can explain. Men like you always can. Now Damian's eyes found mine, and I saw recognition there that made no sense. Get them out, Damian told his men, gesturing to Will's friends. They herded the others upstairs, Pike protesting weakly, the rest just grateful to escape, and I heard the front door slam. As silence settled, Damian adjusted his collar. The movement seemed deliberate. That's when I saw the chain around his neck. Silver. And hanging from it, a ring. Silver band, small ruby, distinctive setting with tiny inscribed flowers. My mother's ring. The one I'd helped her pick out for her 40th birthday. The one she wore every day until she died. The one I'd hidden in the bathroom after the funeral inside the toilet tank, wrapped in plastic. Because it was the only valuable thing Will hadn't already sold, and I knew he'd find it eventually if I kept it in my room. I'd checked on it 2 weeks ago. Gone. The plastic wrapper floating empty in the tank. But this stranger was wearing my mother's ring around his neck. The door closed. 3 of us alone now. The girl goes too, Will tried weakly. No. Damian's tone allowed zero argument. This is entirely about her. I found my voice. That ring, how did you... He met my eyes. Nodded once, deliberately. I know exactly what this is. I know exactly who you are. Then to Will. Do you know what I do to men who hurt women under my protection? She's not under your protection. Will sneered, but sweat poured down his face. She's nobody. She's Irina Miller's daughter. The name hit me like a physical blow. Nobody had said my mother's first name aloud in months. Will never used it. Her friends had drifted away during her illness. But this stranger said it like it mattered. Like she mattered. Irina and I knew each other, Damian said, still circling Will. Long before you entered the picture. Before she got sick. Before she made the mistake of marrying a man who saw her diagnosis as an opportunity. I loved her, Will stammered. You married her 3 weeks after her cancer diagnosis. Filed for power of attorney 72 hours later. Started liquidating her assets, the jewelry, the car, her mother's china within a month. Each word landed like a hammer blow of truth. You isolated her from friends. Told them visits tired her out. That they upset her. Convinced her she was dying and desperate and lucky you'd stay. Damian paused. Predators do this, find someone vulnerable, cut them off from support, rewrite reality until they can't see the cage being built around them. My chest tightened. Those exact patterns. That exact progression. And when she died, you kept the daughter. Not out of compassion calculation. Keep her in the house. Maintain legal claim to the apartment. Continue accessing benefits. Break her down enough that she never questions the story you've written. Will's back hit the wall. Nobody will help you now. Damian repeated Will's words back to him. You believed that completely, didn't you? You were wrong. Damian held up his phone, showing the camera feed. This recording proves assault. Your financial records, which I've had forensic accountants reviewing for 2 months, prove systematic exploitation of a vulnerable adult. The pattern establishes premeditation. 2 months. He'd been investigating for 2 months. You see, Wester, 4 months ago, someone contacted me. Someone who'd known Irina years ago. She'd run into Jill at a coffee shop. Thought she looked afraid. Thin. Anxious. Asked a few careful questions and didn't like the answers. My mind raced. 4 months ago. The coffee shop near campus where I used to study. There was a woman older, kind face who'd bought me coffee once when my card was declined. We'd talked for a few minutes. I'd mentioned my mother had died, that I was living with my stepfather. That woman, Damian continued, was a doctor named Lena. She remembered what Irina had done for her 15 years ago, and she called me. Please. Will's voice cracked completely. I'll get you the money, all of it. There is no money, Damian said dismissively. The debt was fiction, a pretense to contact you, to create a reason for my people to be in your life, to monitor. He let that sink in. Your real problem is you hurt someone whose mother once saved someone I love, someone my family owes a debt we can never fully repay. His voice went cold. I take such debts very seriously. One of Damian's men appeared with a folder. Legal documents, forms, all pre-prepared. You have 2 options, Damian said. Sign these papers. Transfer the apartment to Jill. Admit in writing to financial elder abuse. Cooperate fully with the police investigation that begins tomorrow morning. Or, Will whispered, or you leave here in an ambulance and wake up facing far worse charges. Fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy. I'm very creative when properly motivated. This is illegal, I want a lawyer. By all means, call one. Explain the recording, the financial evidence, see what they recommend. Damian crossed his arms. You have 60 seconds to decide. Will's hand shook violently as he reached for the pen. It took 15 minutes, each signature returning pieces of my life. The apartment, access to accounts he'd frozen, rights to my mother's possessions, written admission of everything. Police arrive tomorrow at 9 a.m., Damian said as his man collected the papers. You'll be present. You'll cooperate. If you run, if you contact Jill, if you deviate in any way, he smiled without warmth, I will find you, and you will wish I hadn't. Will nodded through tears. Get him out of my sight. Then we were alone. The silence felt massive. I slid down the wall until I was sitting on the cold concrete floor, my whole body shaking. My scalp throbbed where Will had grabbed my hair. My arms ached where he'd dragged me. Why? The word came out barely audible. Why would you do all this? Damian sat on the stairs, and for the first time he looked tired, almost human. 15 years ago, my sister Lena was 19 years old. She was overdosing in an alley downtown at 2 a.m. Your mother was walking home from a nursing shift at the hospital. He touched the ring hanging from the chain around his neck. Irina could have called 911 and kept walking. Instead, she stayed, held Lena's hand through the worst of it, told her she mattered, that recovery was possible, that one bad choice didn't define her future. He paused, something raw crossing his face. She rode with her to the hospital, visited her in treatment, called twice a week for 6 months to check on her, went to her sobriety celebration. That sounded exactly like my mother. Exactly. Lena got clean, went to medical school. Now she's a doctor running an addiction recovery program at the same hospital where she almost died. She saves people the way your mother saved her. His voice roughened. A life for a life. That's the only currency that matters in my world. When Irina got sick 2 years ago, she called me. We hadn't spoken in years, but she called. Asked for one favor after she was gone. Would I watch over her daughter? Make sure the man she'd married didn't destroy you the way he'd tried to destroy her. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. My mother's handwriting on the front. My name, in her careful script. She wrote this 2 days before she died. I was instructed to give it to you only if this day ever came. I couldn't touch it yet. Couldn't handle one more emotion. 4 months ago, Lena was grabbing coffee at that place near the college, the one with the blue awning. She saw you there, recognized you from photos your mother had shown her years ago. You looked thin, anxious. She bought you a coffee when your card declined, asked some careful questions. You mentioned your mother had died, that you were living with your stepfather. He stood slowly. She didn't like what she heard, called me that same day. I remembered. The kind woman with dark hair streaked with gray. The way she'd looked at me really looked when I'd mentioned my mother. I'd thought she was just being nice. I investigated, found Will's financial exploitation, his pattern of abuse. I installed surveillance, built a legal case, and I waited for him to do something that would justify intervention. Everything clicked into place. The improbable timing, the specific knowledge, the camera in the ventilation duct. This wasn't random rescue, it was a promise kept across years. The ring, he continued. I tracked down 2.5 weeks ago. Will had pawned it for $200. I paid $3,000 to get it back the same day. He removed the chain from around his neck, held it out. Your mother wanted you to have it. She wanted you to know that even when she couldn't be here, you weren't alone. I took the ring with shaking hands, slipped it onto my finger where my mother used to wear it. It was still warm from Damian's skin. What happens now? I asked. That depends on you, Damian said. You can walk away. Tonight. I'll handle everything else. The apartment transfers back to you. Will faces criminal charges. You go back to school. Live the normal life your mother wanted for you. He paused, watching me carefully. Or, he continued, you can learn what she knew. How to spot these patterns before they destroy someone. How to intervene. How to build the kind of safety nets your mother built for you. The kind that catch people when they fall. You're asking me to work for you, I said. I'm offering to teach you how to see what most people miss. How to recognize predators before they strike. How to help people who think nobody will help them." He shrugged slightly. "What I do with that knowledge is my business. What you'd do with it would be entirely yours. Two paths, two completely different futures." I thought about the last 6 months, living in fear, accepting Will's cruelty because I believed I had no other option. Tonight, when I'd stopped fighting because the situation seemed impossible. But it hadn't been impossible. There had been variables I couldn't see, systems I didn't recognize, a stranger keeping a promise to my dead mother, a doctor who noticed fear in a coffee shop and cared enough to call someone, cameras in air ducts, forensic accountants, legal documents prepared in advance. My mother had built this. Even dying, she'd built this for me. "I need time to think," I said. "Fair enough." Damian handed me a business card. "Monday morning, 9 a.m., this address. Come if you want to learn. Don't come if you'd rather walk away. Either way, you're free of Wester. Either way, this ring is yours." I looked down at the ring on my finger, my mother's ring. What would she want? I asked. If I could ask her right now, what would she tell me to do? Damian considered this for a long moment. She'd tell you to choose whichever path makes you feel powerful instead of powerless. She'd tell you that safety and truly living aren't always the same thing. And she'd tell you that both choices are valid as long as the choice is yours, and yours alone. He walked to the stairs, paused with his hand on the rail. "Read the letter," he said quietly, "then decide." And then he was gone. Dawn came gray and cold through the kitchen window. I sat at the table, in my apartment, my home again, with my mother's letter still unopened in front of me. The ring sat heavy on my finger. My scalp still ached. Bruises were forming dark purple on my arms where Will had grabbed me. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Will was gone. The police would come in a few hours. Damian's lawyer would handle everything. I was free. But I didn't feel free. I felt hollowed out, exhausted, terrified. Every shadow in the apartment made me jump. Every sound from the hallway sent my heart racing. I made coffee with trembling hands, spilled it, made more. Finally, as pale sunlight started to break through the clouds, I opened the letter. "My dearest Jill, if you're reading this, something bad happened, and Damian kept his promise. I'm so sorry, baby. I knew Will would get worse after I was gone, but I couldn't warn you directly. You needed to live your life, not hide from shadows that might never come. Damian will offer you a choice. I don't know what exactly, but knowing him, it won't be simple. I wanted college for you, a career, safe love, quiet happiness, everything I didn't get to have, everything I dreamed of while I was raising you. But I also know you, Jill. You've always seen patterns other people miss. You've always wanted to help people who couldn't help themselves. That's not going to disappear just because you're safe now. Whatever you choose, please know this. You were never as alone as you felt. I asked Lena to keep an eye out for you, to notice if things got bad. That's all I could do from here, ask someone to watch, to care. If you're reading this, it means she did. It means people noticed. It means the safety net I tried to build actually caught you when you fell. I love you more than words can say. I'm so proud of who you are. And I'm so sorry I couldn't stay longer. Whatever you decide about whatever Damian offered, make it your choice. Not mine. Not his. Yours. All my love, Mom." I read it 3 times. Cried through the 4th. Then I sat there in the growing light, drinking coffee, watching the city wake up outside my window. My mother had done what she could, made one phone call to someone she'd helped 15 years ago, asked her to watch, trusted that would be enough. And it had been. But now what? I picked up Damian's card, turned it over in my fingers. Monday, 9 a.m. I didn't know yet what I'd do. Hours earlier, Will had told me nobody would help me. I sat in my kitchen, my apartment, my life, mine again, and realized he'd been half right. Nobody had helped me the way he'd meant. No hero bursting through doors. No police arriving just in time. No miraculous rescue from certain doom. Instead, my mother, even dying, even desperate, had made one phone call to someone whose life she'd saved. That person had watched from a distance, noticed when something looked wrong, made another call, set systems in motion, built a legal case, waited for the right moment. That's not the help you see in movies, but it's the kind that actually works. The sun rose higher. My coffee went cold. I made more. My hands still shook. Part of me wanted to crawl into bed and not come out for days. But another part, the part that was my mother's daughter, kept thinking about Monday. About learning to see what she saw, to build what she built, to be someone who makes that one phone call that changes everything for someone who thinks they're alone. The ring sat warm on my finger. I still didn't know if I'd go. But I knew the choice was mine now. Not Will's. Not fears. Not circumstances. Mine. My mother had trusted that one person would care enough to notice, to act, to keep a promise made years ago to a dying woman. She'd been right to trust. And maybe, just maybe, that was the lesson. Not that I'd been saved. Not that I'd been powerless and someone made me powerful. But that even in the darkest moments, there are people who notice, who remember, who keep promises, who build safety nets you can't see until the moment you need them to catch you. My mother had been one of those people. The question was whether I wanted to learn to be one too. Monday morning, 9 a.m. I had until then to decide. I poured another cup of coffee and watched the city wake up, full of people who felt alone, who thought nobody would help them, who couldn't see the safety nets that might already exist or the ones they might learn to build for others. The ring caught the morning light, and I thought about my mother's hands wearing it. Her voice, her laugh, the way she'd stayed with a stranger overdosing in an alley when she could have just walked away. I had until Monday. That felt like enough time. Stop scrolling. Right now. If this story made you feel something, fear, hope, relief, anything, I need you to do 3 things. First, subscribe. Because stories like this, where the victim isn't actually helpless, where help was there all along in ways you couldn't see, these stories matter. They remind us that systems can be built, that promises can be kept, that one person noticing can change everything. Second, hit the like button. Not for me, for the algorithm. So YouTube shows this to someone who needs to hear it. Someone sitting in their own basement right now, believing nobody will help them. Let's prove them wrong. Third, comment with one word: noticed. If you've ever been the person who saw fear in someone's eyes and actually did something about it. Or if you've been the person who needed someone to notice and they did. Just one word: noticed. Let's build a community of people who refuse to look away. Because Jill's story isn't special. It's happening right now. The only question is, are you Lena? Are you the person who notices, who calls, who acts? Subscribe if you want more stories about people who build safety nets in shadows, who keep promises to the dying, who prove that nobody will help you, is a lie predators tell to keep victims quiet. Next story drops soon. Be there, because the world needs more people who notice. And if you're the one who needs noticing, send the signal. Someone is watching. I promise.